This lesson's topic is the profiler. Now, in some cases, good police work just isn't enough to catch the killer. Either the killer is too smart or too weird. In our last lesson, we had Dirty Harry after Scorpio. Scorpio was kind of smart and kind of weird, but not quite as weird as some of the people the profiler is going after. So the serial killer is going to be our villain in this particular case, and the target of the profiler. And the serial killer differs from a normal killer in that his motives, or her motives, although it's usually going to be guys, only become clear once a pattern has been established. So rather than it being kind of an impulsive killing or a crime of passion, as they call it, it's something where you need a series of deaths, which is why they call it a serial killer, a series of deaths to really figure out what this person is trying to do. Either they're trying to make a temple of skulls, or they're trying to create some kind of master plan out of the whole thing. Now, in order to catch that particular type of killer, you need someone who can recognize the pattern and someone who can go beyond the purview of a normal police detective. So you need a special detective, and it's one who can think like the killer, which is kind of dangerous in its own respect. And once they recognize the pattern, they can anticipate the next move. So in order to be a profiler, at least in films, most of the times they come by that ability the hard way. So something has happened to them, something traumatic, which allows them to see and think and feel like the killer, which isn't necessarily the way that anybody really wants to see, think, or feel. And those scars left behind, either physical or mental, are going to be symbols of that power to profile, the ability to track down the serial killer, recognize their pattern, and essentially climb into their heads and figure out what they're going to do next. And in most of the films with profiles, you'll see that the profiler is very good at what he or she does, but their personal life is going to be a mess, because thinking like a serial killer isn't going to be really good for your family or for normal domestic duties. Also, there's going to be a special relationship between a profiler and the serial killer, kind of a yin-yang relationship, and I'm sure you've seen the ancient Chinese symbol. And that's an idea, rather than of them being opposing forces, they're complementary opposites. So each one fills some kind of void, and each represents what the other cannot be. And we'll definitely see that in the case of the film for this particular lesson, which is Manhunter from 1986. Probably some of you have seen the remake of this film, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is Red Dragon, which is the name of the Thomas Harris novel that this is based on. And of course, Thomas Harris also wrote Silence of the Lambs and created the character of Hannibal Lecter, who most of you have probably heard of before. So Manhunter actually comes before any of this, and it was the first Thomas Harris adaptation, and they changed the name of it for some reason. So our main character, our profiler in this, is a character by the name of Will Graham. He comes out of retirement, so something happened to him that was so bad that he just gave up being a detective and being a profiler. And of course it came at the hands of another serial killer. And there's currently a case the FBI can't solve involving someone they refer to as the Tooth Fairy, which is the particular mark and the pattern that the serial killer is leaving in the southern states that he is terrorizing here. And Will Graham reluctantly comes out of retirement and enlists the aid of Hannibal Lecter, who is the person who essentially attacked him and caused him to retire in the first place. And he uses Lecter to help him try to get the scent back and figure out how to tackle the Tooth Fairy and how to deal with serial killers in general. And of course, this ultimately puts his mental and physical health at risk while he's in pursuit of the killer, and of course his family is at risk as well. All the things you see in your standard profiling tales. So this was remade in 2002 as Red Dragon, and the main reason is because Manhunter was made in 1986. Then you have, in the early 90s, you have Silence of the Lambs, and you have Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. And there was a need to actually create some continuity, apparently, and of course make more money. So Red Dragon was a more literal adaptation. Manhunter is definitely more of a Michael Mann film than it is an adaptation of a Thomas Harris novel. If you watch the whole film, you'll definitely see this. It seems like an extension of the Miami Vice era from the mid 80s. And so the newer version of Red Dragon is a little bit longer, has everything in it, and of course you get Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Although, for my money, I think Brian Cox does a really good job in Manhunter, and I actually prefer the film, which is why I'm showing that. So, enjoy.